Well, here we are again looking at various aspects of the devil's diet. Of course, the devil, he is spirit. He works in the spiritual realm. He works through people sometimes. He works through his helpers, his devotees, the demons. But he's very much evident, although he is spirit, but he's very much evident, of course, in the physical realm, which is where we tend to be living. But there is a spiritual dimension to all of us, of course, but we are flesh and bone. Things are physical. This is the desk where I sit, and here are lots of other examples, a little diary here. It's all physical. And he does operate in the physical realm, albeit he is spiritual. The Devil's Diet, Your Hypocrisy, is the title I'm giving today's message. We've been looking at, in this mini-series, the last, is it 5 or 6 video messages? We've been looking at the overarching principle that the devil feeds on sin. That's his diet. The sin which everybody exhibits from time to time. Hypocrisy for a Christian is a sin. Indeed, it's a sin for people who are not Christians, because it means being two-faced. It means having double standards. It means lacking that stability which we should be having at all times. It means lacking transparency, because we put up a mask in front of us like an actor, and that I'm no linguist, but hypocrisy, hypocrite, comes from a Greek word meaning actor. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that, but please don't jump at me if I'm wrong. But if it doesn't come from a Greek word, the essence of which is being an actor, then hypocrisy is acting. It's play acting. We are lacking transparency because we put up a front, we play a part, which is not really us, just like an actor on a stage. We're lacking this transparency. We don't want people to see beyond the mask, beyond the the clothing that we wear, as an actor would wear clothing to portray a character. And we put ourselves forward as a particular character, whereas in fact on the inside, well, we're not. We should be transparent. People should get what they see. Isn't there an expression that we sometimes use, is that with a certain person you get what you see, or what you see is what you get? I think, have I got that right? I'm not sure I have. But I think we get the drift of all this. The devil's diet, part of his diet is your hypocrisy. Now let's have a look, and I'll tell you why I thought of this particular theme, because I was reading just a couple of 3 days ago Psalm 62. So let's go to Psalm 62. Not the whole psalm. I could read it, but germane to this particular message are only the first 4 verses, really, and in particular verse 4. Psalm 62 begins, "My soul waits in silence for God only. From him is my salvation." Well, what a declaration that is. What a statement that is. My soul, which is the innermost being, really, the real character of us, our soul, waits in silence for God only. From him is my salvation. He only is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I shall not be gently shaken. Oh, let's stand on those words, shall we? Maybe first thing as we get up in the morning, we could read those 2 verses of Psalm 62 as a declaration each day, maybe each lunchtime, maybe each eventide, maybe before we go to bed. What verses they are. Continuing to verse 3, how long will you assail a man, that you may murder him, all of you? Now this is talking to and about the enemies, those in opposition, those in hostility. Like a leaning wall, like a tottering fence, they have counselled only to thrust him down from his high position. They delight in falsehood, they bless with their mouth, but inwardly they curse. Selah. It's that part of that verse 4 that really struck me when I read it the other day. Talking about those people in opposition, we could call them enemies, not in the sense of being in a military warfare, but nonetheless, people who are hostile to us. They delight in falsehood, they bless with their mouth, but inwardly they curse. This is hypocrisy. Whoever they are, and as Christians we can certainly be as guilty of this as the next man, to use that expression. This is talking about people who say nice things about somebody else to their face, but then behind their back they curse them. They reverse the nice things they've said, they reverse the verbal blessings, and instead it's a knife in the back. That's hypocrisy. That's absolute hypocrisy. They bless with their mouth, but inwardly they curse, delighting in falsehood. Are we guilty of this sort of behaviour, this attitude? Well, each one of us can answer that for ourselves. And I'm going to suggest that the answer has to be yes, from time to time. We meet as Christians. We have fellowship with each other in one setting or another, maybe in a church fellowship meeting, maybe in somebody's house, maybe we meet somebody in town, walking down the street, in a shop, and we talk to them and we're nice to them. But really, what are our inward thoughts about them? Are we thinking something different from the nice language which comes out of our mouth? Sometimes, yes, I think that must be the answer. Hypocrites. We'll come on to look in a moment or two about, in Matthew chapter 23, about, and I have that open here, about the Lord Jesus talking and calling people hypocrites. And there was a woe. Now, going back to Psalm 62, at the end of verse 4, it having said, they delight in falsehood, they bless with their mouth, but inwardly they curse, there's that little word Selah, S-E-L-A-H. And again, I'm no academic, I'm no theologian, but then apparently no academic or no theologian has actually fully got to grips with that little word. It might be a musical term, it might be a meaning interlude. I tend to think it means, but it doesn't matter what I think, but this is how I approach it. Sila, stop and think. Pause and consider what has been said in the preceding verse or verses, the preceding passage. And that's what I've been doing. When I read this Psalm 62 and I came across, they bless with their mouth, but inwardly they curse, Sila, I stopped and began to think. And that's how I regard this little word, Selah. So, some time ago, and I can't remember where I found this, but it serves the purpose very well here. I'm talking about this. This undoubtedly is a vertebra in the singular, and more than one vertebra, they become vertebrae, a backbone. It's got to be that, I'm sure. And I'll hold it up to the camera, and I think you can see there that it is very much looking like a face. One eye, two eyes, and a mouth ear, ear. It looks like a face of some sort of animal. It's not a face of an animal, it's a part of the spine. So that's a face. But the reason I've kept it is because when we turn it round like this, there is another face. How about that? The mouth, the eyes, and the ears. This particular object has two faces. There's one face. There. Turn it round. And it's two-faced. It is two-faced. You can see that. I'm sure you can. And that's why I kept it, because I thought at one point or another I might just speak about being two-faced. And here we are today. This is what I'm doing. What a wonderful little visual help that is. Are you like that? Because if you are like that, if I am like this, then we allow the devil to feed on us. The devil's diet is your hypocrisy and mine. I referred a couple of minutes ago to Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 23, which I have now right in front of me. And in that chapter, we have the Lord Jesus speaking to the scribes and he was speaking to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, this is the beginning of chapter 23 of Matthew. The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, and he goes on to describe and to criticize the scribes and the Pharisees, to point out their faults. Now, he goes, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees. So it goes on throughout the chapter. But then we come to verse 27 and 28, verses 27 and 28 of Matthew chapter 23, where the Lord Jesus says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. It's not the first time he's called them hypocrites. He had done earlier in that chapter. Boy, he had lots to say about people, in particular here, the scribes and the Pharisees, who were hypocrites. You can read that chapter 23 of Matthew in fairly short order. Verse 27, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside are full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. Even so, you also outwardly appear righteous to men, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Several times in that chapter he refers to the scribes and the Pharisees as hypocrites. The example given in those two verses which I have read is that they portrayed themselves as being godly people, which in a sense, yes, they were. They wanted to serve God, but they weren't doing a good job at it. They portrayed themselves more than they portrayed and showed God in their character. They wanted people to believe that they were really godly people. Yes, that's what they were. They were dedicated. They followed Yahweh. They were of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were the top of the tree. That's what they wanted people to see them as. But in reality, of course, Jesus saw through their mask. He saw through their disguise. He saw that they were acting. And he said that they appeared righteous to men, but inside they were full of hypocrisy and lawlessness, like whitewashed tombs, which on the outside have been whitewashed, simply put, painted white, or with a wash, with a certain substance. So nice, clean looking, white, inwardly, inside the tomb, dead men's bones and uncleanness. Hypocrisy, hypocrisy, hypocrisy. The devil feeds on that, as he feeds on all of our sin. And as I've said once or twice, maybe more times in these messages, we must starve him. So no more hypocrisy, no more play acting. Do not be like this little fellow here who has one face. Oh, actually, he has two faces. Do not be like him. Do not be two-faced. Do not be an actor. Do not be a hypocrite. Be transparent, so that when you go about your daily business, socially, at work, whatever, you will be displaying the character of Jesus, rather than hiding him behind the mask of self-portrayal.